Tom Donhou, Framebuilder, based in Norwich. People I build for is a mixed bag, really. I'd like to think that I sort of build for the man on the street. I really love the people I work with. Every person's different and they're all awesome. Yeah, without sounding cheesy, you feel like you get a new friend every time you build a bike, so it's kind of cool. The most sort of important things for me building bikes is to be able to pass on the potential, the times you can have on a bike. You know, like I just received photos from a guy I built an expedition bike for. He was riding across the Nubian desert down in Africa, and it's just really something else. I'd say I'd probably be eternally stoked on the fact that you're building bikes and giving people the potential for those kinds of experiences. I think that's probably one of the kind of the main underlying reasons for why I do this. My background is in product design, so I was working for a design consultancy down in London, designing perfume bottles and toys. For me it was kind of soulless, just designing tat which is going to get thrown away. So I jacked all that in, and me and a friend drove to Mongolia, and I had my bike in the back of the truck. When he left, I then rode out across the Gobi Desert, down through China, Vietnam, Thailand, down to Singapore. And that was basically when I started forming all this idea. Well, designing and bikes, basically, they're my two passions. So yeah, I put them together and sort of come up with this. So by the time I was getting close to Singapore, I'd been 8 months on the road, a lot of time thinking. I was really excited about getting back and I'm throwing myself into the new project. I kind of just see what I'm doing now as it's still the same journey, just change shape a little bit. So yeah, as soon as I got back, I threw myself at it, started building frames and just learning everything I could. I had a lot of transferable skills from the design background. Also, I've been around old cars. I used to spend a lot of time down at a custom hot rod shop. Basically, they used to build the old American hot rods and drag cars and things like that. So I'd sort of picked up a few things down there. So I kind of had a good skill base. It's just a case of transferring it over to actual bike building. So there was basically 24/7, just that was all I did. And then could sort of start building bikes for customers. One of the sort of few reasons I started doing what I was doing is because seeing again on this trip when I was away, seeing the effects of globalization and the pressures that it can put on people and the environment and the landscape. And I just wanted to have everything as close to me as I could get it. So painting here, you know, Reynolds tubing, and I wanted to know where as much of what I was doing was coming from. And I wanted the people that buy my bikes to know that as well, to know that, you know, for it to have a face. I basically sort of wanted to almost go back to a kind of cottage industry type of setup. The paint again was kind of all part of having control over things. It's a really nice feeling to spend all that time building a bike and then kind of dressing it, I suppose, giving it its final coat of colour, and it's a good thing just to be able to spray on that last coat of clear and just have it gloss up like the final gloss, and it's like, yeah, job done. And with Sam, when we sat down to talk about his bike, we talked about various things, and sort of one of the main things about his bike is the fact that it's got disc brakes. With the nature of the Continental rides is that they could be going up some pretty ratty roads and sort of in some pretty harsh environments. I think the first ride's up in the far end of Scotland, as far north as you can go, I think, is what I've heard. But yeah, so it needs to be an all-weather bike. It needs to be able to deal with some sort of crappy roads. And also, we both kind of like the look of disc brakes. Me sort of from my mountain bike background, and Sam as well. So that was the main dictating factor. From then on, it was just kind of free rein. We got Sam's geometry together and just put a cool bike together. He wanted a stiff bike, basically, despite the fact that he's going to be riding a lot of miles on it. He's ridden stiff bikes before and always preferred them and never had a problem. So we went with a sort of quite stiff setup, and it's going to be getting a wound up fork as well, which is a really cool fork, and it kind of again gives a little bit of a nod back to the mountain bike thing with the way the fork's constructed. Like, we both really like the old the Pace forks that Pace used to do back in the 90s. That kind of wraps up the Rapha build.